Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. This evening I'm playing Bolt Action. I've got the new 3rd edition hardback rulebook here, very good it's too. And I thought I would play a game. I haven't played Bolt Action 3rd edition before, so it's the first time that I'm going to play the game. I played 2nd edition a little bit, but I played 1st edition quite a lot when it came out. And for one reason or another, no real reason specifically, I didn't play 2nd edition very much. Just got into some other games, etc. But with the new edition coming out, it's rekindled my interest in the game. So I picked up a copy, got some figures out of their boxes, and set this quite simple game up that I'm going to play through this evening. And I'm playing the games solo. I think actually Bolt Action solos quite well, mostly because of the dice activation system. So what you've got here is I've got quite a small board, nothing too large just for a first game. The board's about 3 foot by 3.5, something like that. I've got a variety of different wargaming boards for miniatures, ranging from small to 8 foot by 6 foot, that sort of size. But I just wanted to play something quick, just as much as anything, to re-familiarise myself with the rules, pick up on some of the new rules in the 3rd edition, and have a crack at doing a video. So I don't do a huge amount of miniature videos. I mostly do hex and counter games on my YouTube channel, but I thought, why not give it a try and see how it works out. So in terms of the battle scenario, this is a French Normandy-esque farm or outskirts of a farm, and there are some German forces inhabiting the farm, and the American forces have been sent to investigate and engage and see if they can drive them out. So it's a pretty straightforward scenario. I have given the Americans slightly more points than the Germans. What we've got here for the Germans, we've got 3 infantry squads. Each squad is 6 figures. Of that squad, the NCO has a submachine gun, and one of the German soldiers has an STG-44. The rest have rifles. Then we've got our HQ with our platoon leader there, and they've got 2 soldiers with them, and we've got an MG-42 3-person team there as well. So the Germans have in total 5 order dice for the bag. And the Americans have got slightly more because the Americans are going to be doing the assault. The Germans are sort of defending. When you're playing games solo, that's a really easy game to solo, with one side attacking, one side defending. So the Americans have 4 squads, so they've got 1 squad more of infantry. Their squads are all the same. They're all 6 soldiers per squad, just the same as the Germans. They've got 1 NCO with a submachine gun, got some Thompsons and some grease guns, and they've got 1 soldier with a BAR. In addition to that, they've also got a 3-person MG team here with 30 cal, and they've got the same again. They've got a platoon leader supported by 2 soldiers as well. So fairly symmetrical, just for the sake of tonight's game. But the Americans have slightly more than the Germans do. In terms of, for those of you who like playing with points, which I often do, but I'm not always so obsessed with it. But in terms of points, so the Germans have, just checking my sheet here, the Germans have 310 and the Americans have 380. So the Americans have roughly sort of 20-ish% more than the Germans. But what I'm going to do when I set the game up, I'm going to put the Germans in situ already. I'm doing it from a solo gaming perspective, and I'm playing very much as the Americans trying to assault this farm. The scenery is mostly MDF. All the buildings are MDF that I've painted up, and I've just had a recent splurge of sorting out and tidying up some of the scenery, ready for today's game. All the buildings are enterable. We've got a couple of barns on this side of the board and on that side of the board. The house at the end there's got 2 floors. I shall put some of the Germans in the house, and I'll put a couple of the other units dotted around, and I'll get everything set up, and we'll make a start. How I like to do these videos, I'll play off camera and then I'll talk every turn about what's happening, may touch on some of the rules. Because it's the first time I've played 3rd edition, I've given myself the whole evening to play through this and just re-familiarise myself with the rule set. But one of the reasons I do like playing it, especially solo, is that you put all the order dice in a bag and you randomly pick one, and then you can activate a unit. It works the same way as a lot of chip pull mechanics do in hex and counter games that I play. So it solos really nicely. And there's no vehicles or anything like that. There's no off-board artillery. There's no mortars. I'll probably introduce all those sort of things as I play through different games of bolt action over the next few weeks and months, etc. Introducing new game things into that. I've got quite a large, sizable collection of figures and vehicles and different support weapons. So I'll be introducing those one at a time. But for tonight's game, purely infantry, keep it nice and simple, and I'll make a start. So just before I start, I thought I'd just talk about the initial setup. I've got the American troops here on this side of the board, and for all intensive purposes, I'm going to class them as starting in cover. I imagine some tree line along here, for example. And then I've got some Germans. I've got a squad just other side of the wall there. The MG team near that barn there. We've got the command squad HQ over there, and then squad in the house right at the top of the board, and another squad there. Because you're playing the game solo, I find a more sort of thematic scenario setup often helps. It's one of the things I've learned from playing a lot of hex and counter games like Squad Leader, etc. And I apply that to when I play miniatures games solo as well. And then what I'll do, I'm going to give the first order specifically to the Americans, so they get their first order for free, as it were. And they still have to use an order dice, but the first one to draw out the bag is an American one. And now the Germans can fire on the Americans, and that's fine. They're just classing the Americans as classing as in cover. And what the objective is to really clear out. I'm going to say clear out the house and the barn there. So the Americans really are driving away from the camera across the farmyard here, and hopefully getting defeating the various German units. And the Germans are just simply trying to defend. So I shall make a start. So at the end of the first turn, if I just go through each of the different units, we've advanced the American unit here. They put down some fire on this German unit here. German unit took a casualty and a pin. However, they returned fire, but completely ineffective. Literally didn't get a single good dice roll. This unit here have ran using the run order, so they can basically move a lot further to try and quickly close the gap on this pinned German unit here, or be able to engage the MG42. Now the MG42 team, they put down some fire and put a pin on this unit here, but again no casualties. Command unit ran across the battlefield here, kind of foolhardy move, I should say, but to inspire the men, and you lead by example. And on this side, the 30 cal team have got into position, ready to put down some MG fire on the Germans there. This unit here, they advanced and laid down some fire, and they were able to pin that unit there. And then I'll move around the camera. The last unit here, which are just on the camera, they've ran across the very right flank. The idea being that they're going to try and move around to this building here and lay down some fire from the corner of the building. Both sides have taken a casualty. This side did take a casualty, actually. I'm incorrect. They did take a casualty from the MG42, and that German unit there took a casualty as well. So I'll do the same again. What I'll do now is tidy up and take all the order dice back off the different units. And then, and what I should probably also say is the two German units at the very top of the map here, we'll put them into ambush. They didn't really have anything that when they got their order, they didn't really have anything they could fire at, have anything within range, so we gave them an ambush order. So they will keep, I think they'll keep that ambush order into the next turn. Right, so at the end of turn 2, it's quite interesting. The Americans here were able to assault in close combat the German unit here and defeat them. So they've been removed from play. They did take a couple of casualties as a result of doing so. And as they jumped across this stone wall here, they did take some fire from the unit there that was set up in ambush, but ineffective, that fire. The ambush rule and the close combat rule I probably need to just go through again, but I think I got it right. I think the Americans took casualties as I rolled for them, and I'm pretty sure they take casualties as a result of that. But I do want to just go over that rule again. When I'm playing normally, I have a quick scan of the rule and then play accordingly. I don't really like holding up play too much just to reread, sections. But it was very effective and very dramatic and quite decisive, I found. One of the nuances with bolt action, and I don't remember if this has been in previous versions or not, is if you assault from really close, the defender doesn't get a reactionary fire, which was definitely the case in today's game. And before that, though, this unit here would put down some fire, so they were able to put more pin markers on the Germans as a result. So that worked quite effectively, pin down the enemy and then attack them, as you'd expect from a World War II tactical game. The unit here laid down some fire, totally ineffective. Now on this side of the board, though, the American MG team put down quite a lot of fire on that German unit over there, which was super effective, and pins and a couple of casualties. But they were able to return fire on this unit here and inflict a couple of casualties on those Americans there. So pretty even Stevens between those two units on that side. The side on the very right, other side of that building over there, they've been able to move into position, but in doing so they sort of exposed themselves to the German unit over in the house over there, and that German unit put down quite effective fire on them, and as a result, a couple of casualties. I need to put a pin marker on them as well. And it's quite interesting seeing the difference between how effective fire is. Obviously, it's obvious if you're in cover, how much better it is to be in cover, and how much you're exposing yourself when out of cover. One of the things I do like, and I'm pretty sure this is new in this version of bolt action, is the slightly refined process for working out saves or modifiers for the terrain. I think that's really good. It's much more streamlined, I think. So I'm enjoying that very much. So yeah, quite a lot of drama in that turn. In terms of who's winning and who's losing, I'm not too fussed really. But I think the Americans have slightly the upper hand. Looking at the models I've taken off the board, there's more Germans being taken off than there are Americans. So in that respect, Americans probably do have the slight upper hand. In terms of their objectives, on this side of the board we've got sort of a good squad here to engage the MG42 with some support. I mean, this squad here is nearly done. And then on this side of the board, both the American squads have taken significant casualties, as has the German squad, but the Germans have a complete squad left in that building there. So the Americans are going to keep pushing for their objectives. They want to clear out that MG42 nest there, and they want to clear out the Germans from that building over there. And quite a lot of decisive drama in that turn. So this squad here have moved up in advance order, lay down some fire on the German MG42 team, which returned fire using their fire order and decimated this squad. So this squad's just had 3 casualties and just one burst of fire from the MG42. This squad here again laid down some fire, completely ineffective. This American squad laid down some fire on the Germans over there and got a casualty, so I should put a pin on that, which I shall duly do. However, on this side of the board, the Americans are doing quite well. There's just this stubborn MG42 that's just not giving it up just yet. But it has taken a casualty, so I used a grey dice there to show that a casualty has been inflicted on that team. I like mounting my teams on one base. I think they look very thematic. Although it sort of hinders the gameplay a little bit because you just have to mark up casualties. It's not a big deal, to be honest. But on this side of the board, the Germans in the house destroyed the American unit, which you can't really see because there's only one person left, one soldier left on the other side of that building there. So this German unit in in the house is decimating all the Americans that are coming towards it. And conversely, this unit here and the 30 cal finished off that German unit there. No great surprise there. So they're defeated and out of the game. So this side of the board, Americans doing quite well. But that MG42 is going to be stubborn. This side of the board, the Americans have advanced up, but those Germans in that building are doing a really good job of suppressing and eliminating, picking off casualties, etc. And that's a full strength squad in that building. It's the only full strength squad left in the whole game. As an infantry squad, we've still got the HQ squad here, of course. So what the Americans need to do is get this 30 cal up. Need to get down some fire with that 30 caliber. Try and suppress them, so they can try and bring that squad into assault. Hopefully, this side of the board finish off that MG42, so these soldiers here can get into that fight in that building as well. We'll see. So at the end of turn 4, the Americans, this squad, were able to eliminate that MG42. Literally got every single dice they needed. Literally the best dice you could possibly get. And they've run this squad up here into these woods here. However, they took some casualties from the HQ unit, and they've moved their HQ. The Americans have moved their HQ unit up into these woods here. This side of the board, the Americans laid down quite a lot of fire with the 30 cal and with that infantry, but really only inflicted a couple of pins on a pin on the Germans, but one casualty. And then the remaining squad, remaining American squad, got a pin, but then they received fire and they're out of the game. So the Americans are looking in a strong position. They've got quite a few units left, although at depleted strength, but they've got more than the Germans have. However, that is in a turn 4. If I was playing a 4-turn scenario, the Americans have not got both their objectives which they needed to get. So I'm quite happy to play another turn and see how it all shapes up. Really, what they need to do, the Americans need to use the 30 cal and that squad. They need to move their squads up quite aggressively, use the 30 cal to put some pins on the Germans, hopefully. We'll see if that works out for them or not. So we're going to call the game there, end of turn 5. The Germans just not giving up that building. The Americans, with all their firepower, were only able to inflict one casualty, and the Germans in turn inflicted a couple. And I feel like there's, in the story, in the narrative of my mind, the Americans have just realised that the Germans are just too dug into this last bit of the farm, in this farm building here. And at this point, taking the casualties that they have from their squads, so the Americans would call in for some artillery support, mortars, or maybe even armour, something like that. So, and what way to finish the game? I thought the Americans at one point were going to sort of romp away and get both the objectives, but not to be. The Germans just did a really good job in terms of their dice rolling. I'll be honest, it's not anything on my part, not decisions I made. The Germans got really good dice rolls with that squad in that house over there, and we're able to decimate a lot of the American units on this side of the board. Conversely, on this side of the board, Americans did really well. That was an extremely enjoyable solo game of bolt action this evening. I can remember now why I loved the game so much, and I'm keen very much to get back into it in a big way this year. There's quite a few things I learned from that. So number one, of the rules, and like I said, can't quite recall which rules are specific to version 3 compared to version 2, but I really like the combat and the firing mechanics. I really like the cover save system. I believe that's new. Not entirely sure, but I believe it is, and that works really well. I'm used to playing. I would describe as very crunchy games, and you're working out a lot of mathematics in your head, odds ratios and things like that. But with this game, it's very streamlined. But the sort of the outcomes are very similar. You know, you're rolling cover has a serious impact on the game. Lack of cover has a serious impact on the game. And I deliberately did a few things this evening just to test that out, just to see what impact that would have. And I could clearly see, moving that squad on this side of the board, either side of that building, into open ground, not a good idea, Matt. Don't do that again. And that's one of the advantages of playing games, just in general, but also playing solo. You can try different things out, and you can do it in your pace in the way you'd like to, which is a lot of fun. I also can remember why playing bolt action solo works really well. Just the dice activation. So every single turn you put all the dice in a bag, pull the dice out randomly, and then you activate one of those units depending on the colour of the dice. It's a chip pull mechanic in terms of hex and counter games, and it works brilliantly well in hex and counter games. It works brilliantly well here. So very much enjoyed that. The for me, the force selection, I was quite. I'm not really interested in maximising the number of dice or gaming this one side or the other. I'm always going to pick fairly historically authentic forces that I feel represent the forces in this part of World War II, and I feel that is a lot of there's a lot of literature I've read that maybe there weren't quite so many machine guns around as everyone thinks there was, and so that's why I picked a lot of rifle squads with rifles. That's the way I like it to play World War II games. Personal preference, of course. But bolt action, what I like about this game tonight, bolt action still felt very authentic. I'm not saying it's a simulation, doesn't pretend to be, but it still feels really authentic and thematic, which I really enjoy. And there are some things that I'm quite keen to try out. So, like I said, I've got mortars, I've got artillery models, I've got numerous vehicles, some of which I've shown on my channel, a lot of which I've not. So I'm quite keen to get some of them on the board. But I also enjoy taking a few steps at a time. I enjoy playing a game like tonight, just infantry. Would quite like to put maybe a mortar into the mix, maybe a light mortar or a medium, something like that. And then a couple more infantry squads before I start to get into loads of vehicles and tanks and all these other things. I like taking that sort of approach in solo gaming. Of course, when you're playing with someone else, that's not always the case, but playing solo is one of the great things. I've got plenty of figures. I don't need to play any more figures for any more games, but I probably also need to do some more terrain, because I've enjoyed making the terrain that I've done recently, and enjoy seeing it on the board as well. So I've got some more terrain pieces to make. I should probably flock the board as well. It's just painted brown at the minute, so I probably need to do that. If you have played Bolt Action version 3 solo, I'm quite keen on any thoughts from anyone in the community. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, please let me know. I normally cover mostly like 90% hex and counter, but I'm quite keen to cover some more minis stuff as well. In particular, focusing on historical games, not just Bolt Action, but maybe some Hail Caesar as well, and a few Black Powder, of course. So I'm quite keen to do that. So let me know any thoughts on that. But if you have played the game, solo especially, any thoughts or recommendations, I'm always keen to hear and learn from other gamers. So please drop a comment in the comment section. And thanks a lot for watching, as always. Thank you.